So, hello everyone. My name is Jester Ken Egoyena from DICT 11. Today I'm going to explain to you the TCP and IP model and its layers by itself. So, let's get started. So, when we say TCP and IP protocol, so uh, it is basically defined as data and of course internet. So, it means to transfer some data and reliably transfer some data files, internet files, or internet by itself, data, to be able to transfer it reliably from large or distances. So over distances by means of internet and data. So let's get started. What is TCP and IP protocol? So what is TCP and IP model really? So TCP slash IP, so TCP first stands for Transmission Control Protocol, and then IP stands for Internet Protocol. So what do I mean by that? So TCP and IP stack is specifically designed as a model to offer highly reliable and end-to-end byte stream over unreliable internet network. So as I've said earlier, TCP and IP, it means internet transfer. So it transmits data and internet uh, to certain distances or far distances, because internet and data are most important thing that the TCP and IP model needs. So it means also that it is a end-to-end byte stream over an unreliable internet network. So it means a network and of course an internet. So next, what is TCP and IP model again? So TCP and IP model helps you to determine how a specific computer should be connected to the internet. So TCP and IP model again, it means it needs a internet, and of course a computer needs an internet to be able to serve, and of course to connect, and of course to get some data or information that we need, and also the computer needs. So and how data should be transmitted between them. So uh, data and internet are important in TCP and IP model, because without this, the transfer is not completed, or the transfer itself by means of data and internet are not reliably efficient. So it helps you to create a virtual network when multiple computer networks are connected together. So it is important because internet and data is being used by many peripherals and hardware, peripherals like computer, like cell phone, Android phones. It is used by certain gadgets that we've used in everyday lives. So the purpose of TCP or IP model is to allow communication over large distances. So I've said earlier, TCP and IP model needs certain distances or large distances, because internet and data is being used wirelessly, and of course it is being used by means of signals, not by means of certain wires that you need to put it one by one. So it is important that we have TCP and IP model in our computers, and of course in our internet and data. They are interconnected to each other. Uh, they are important altogether. So we have the layers of TCP and IP model. So we have four layers. We have application, we have transport, we have internet and network interface. So what is that? So we're gonna explain it further one by one. So first, uh, what is layers of TCP IP model? So the functionality of TCP IP model is divided into four layers, and each includes specific protocols. So not I included it there, not just because I want to include it there, but because they have specific functions when it comes to internet and data. So TCP and IP model is layered server architecture system in which layer is defined according to a specific function to perform. All of the layers that is included in the um, table have specific layer, has a certain function in order to perform specific tasks in a computer, in a data, and of course transfer of data. So all of these four TCP IP layers work collaboratively to transmit the data from one layer to another. It is important again because without this TCP or IP model, the data or the internet, the data itself cannot be transported specifically to different parts or the most important parts of a computer. So we have the first indicated layer here, which is application layer. So what is application layer? So application layer interacts with an application program. So by its name itself, uh, the application layer is interconnected with application programs that we have in our computers or our gadgets or our different peripherals that we have in our houses or our lives, which is the highest level of OSI model. So the application layer is the OSI layer. So again, the application layer is the OSI layer, which is closest to the end user. It means the OSI application layer allows user to interact with other software applications. With application layer, uh, it, it enables the user to use different kinds of application by means of this layer. So again, application layer interacts with other programs or application programs, system programs to be able to be interact with other software application by the user. So next, application layer interacts with software applications to implement a communicating component. So not all is based on application program, but of course in software applications as well. So it is important because they are interconnected to each other, no? Um, Applications, software application, program applications are one of the important things that application layer has. And the data, of course, because here the data is being passed on by what we call as transfer layer that we will be talk about later on. So the interpretation of data by the application program is always outside the scope of the OSI model. So it is outside the scope because it interprets the data itself of the application program. So next, we have the examples of application layer that we always see in our uh, lives. So we have file, we have transfer, we have email, electronic mail, remote logins, etc. So the function of application layers are first, application layer helps you to identify communication partners, determining resource availability and synchronizing communication. It is important because synchronization here by means of data is efficient and very reliable. Next, it allows user to log on to a remote host. It enables a user to log in or to log on to a certain remote host over internet or over a peripheral or thing that with logging in. For example, um, Google like that. We need to log in there by means of application layer. We be able to log in or log on there, no? By the use of our accounts. So next, this layer provides various email services. So provides email services is one of the important things that application layer has. So next, this application offers distributed database sources and access for global information about various objects and services. Application layer, of course, is a database sources, and of course, the user can access different information that he or she wants by means of this layer. No, by means of this layer, he or she can access to different kinds of um, things that he needed in order to get some information. So next, we have transport layer. So transport layer builds on the network layer in order to provide data transport from a process on a source system machine to a process on a destination system. It is hosted using a single or multiple networks and also maintains the quality of service functions. It determines how much data should be sent where and at what rate. This layer builds on the message which are received from the application layer, and it helps ensure that data units are delivered error-free and in sequence. So transport layer in shorthand or uh, in a simple explanation is a transfer of data from this layer to different layers of data, different layers. So the data will be transferred by the transport layer. So the transport layer is a layer which transfer data sequentially. It is important that the data is transferred sequentially because if it is not, the data would be, or would it have an error? So it will be restart or it will be redo because the data is being putted, or the data is being put it in in a layer where it is not belong. So it must be in sequence, or it is in uh, a formal order. So transport layer function, or the important function, we have it divides the message received from the session layer into segments and numbers them to make a sequence. So again, transport layer, it is important the data here, and of course the sequence of transferring the data. So transport layer makes sure that the message is delivered to the correct process or the destination machine. So it must be the message is delivered or its proper or formal destination, because as I said earlier, sequence is important in transport layer. And last, it also makes sure that the enter message arrives without any error, or else it should be retransmitted. So it will be redo, or it will be restarted, because if the data is being put into different layer, therefore the data would be redo or restart, and it will be retransmitted as well. So next, we have internet layer. So internet layer is the second layer of TCP or IP layers of the TCP or IP model. It also known as the network layer. So internet layer is also known as network layer. So don't be confused to that thing. So the main work of this layer is to send the packets from any network, and any computer still reach, or still they reach the destination irrespective of the route they take. So internet layer and network layer are the same. Therefore, internet layer send packets to different route they take, or different destination that they want, even though it is slow, or even though it is sluggish. So the internet layer offers the functional and procedural method for transferring variable length data sequences from one node to another with the help of various networks. So internet layer is important, and data is also important because it is being transferred here. So, message delivery at any network layer does not give any guarantee to be reliable network, because it can be sluggish or it can be slow, and at the same time it is not efficient as well sometimes. So layer management protocols that belong to the network are: we have routing protocols, we have multicast group management, we have network layer address assignment. So network interface layers next is the layer of the four-layer TCP or IP model. This is known also as a network access layer. So network interface layer is also known as network access layer. So it helps you to define details of how data should be sent using the network. So network interface layer enables the user to define the details of how data should be sent by means of internet or network. So it includes how bits should optically be signaled by hardware devices, which directly interfaces with the network medium. Like for example, we have example here like coaxial, optical, coaxial fiber, or twisted pair cables. So here, it defines us that the network interface layer or network access layer helps us to define how data should be sent by using of network, or by using of networks. So a network layer is a combination of the data line and defined in the article of OSI reference model. So it means a line, cable lines. So combination of data lines and of course OSI reference model. This layer defines how the data should be sent physically through the network. Again, it defines us how the data should be sent using networks. This layer is responsible for the transmission of the data between two devices on the same network. So we have TCP and IP characteristics. So first, support for a flexible TCP or IP architecture. It is formally built, and it is scientifically and systematically built. No? It uses mathematical procedures or scientific procedures in order to create this kind of architecture. So next, we have adding more system to a network is easy, because internet and data is being transferred easily or with ease. No? So network here is easy because of TCP and IP architecture, IP model. So TCP IP protocol suit, the network remains intact until the source and destination machines were functioning properly. So network remains intact, and of course the machines must be functioning properly as well in order to be able to create something like this TCP and IP protocol or uh, SOOP. So TCP is a connection-oriented protocol. So it means that internet and data are important here. So next, TCP offers reliability and ensures that data which arrives out of sequence should be put back into order. So here, the transport or the transfer protocol or transport layer is the one who redo it, and of course, other layers will redo it as well in order to arrive into a sequential order. It must be in a sequential order because if the data is not in sequential or in order, then the data will be redo or restart. It will have some errors and it will redo as well. No? So the sequence and order is more important here to be able to make the data flow correctly. So TCP allows you to implement flow control, so sender never overpowers the receiver with data. So TCP allows us to implement flow control because the user here is one that knows uh, how the flow of the layer flows as well, or how the flow continues. No, so the sender or the receiver itself, the sender itself never overpowers receiver with the data. So sender and receiver here are essential too. So summary, we have application which is in sense to allow access to network resources, transport to provide reliable process message delivery and error delivery. So sequence here is important. So application, system, and program applications are important and user. Internet to move packets from source to destination to provide internet working. Internet is a source of information by all. It moved packets from source to destination. So network interface, responsible for the transmission for the between two devices on the same network. So it is important the switching or synchronization of data here. So I hope you learned something from this video, from this explanation about TCP and IP model. And I hope you learn somehow about how layers work together and at the same time how they're functioning as well by means of data and internet. It is important that data and internet here are very important, very essential because without this, the layer itself would not be built or the TCP and IP model would not be built. So it is important here that the data and internet are interconnected to each other, and of course the user, the computer, and the whole peripheral itself or the whole system itself. So I hope you learned something from this video. Thank you and God bless.